Hello and welcome to Genuine Healing. Today we are going to be doing a review of our inaugural Masterclass in Divine Empowerment. We held it a few days ago, and we are taking this as an opportunity to, well, reflect on what that Masterclass was all about and the importance of it. I'm your host, Marvin Schneider.
And I'm your energy facilitator, Jen Ward.
Hi, Jen. Good to see you. I'm so super excited. We have in the studio with us all of the participants on the inaugural masterclass. Thank you very much for being here and taking the time to share some of your experiences, let other people know what you experienced in this. But before we do get into opening up the floor, Jen, I remember about 2 months ago, we were doing a group SFT tapping event as part of our core mission of uplifting 8 billion people into higher consciousness and igniting universal empowerment. And it was quite an uplifting tapping event. It was about bringing people into higher consciousness. And you made the comment that this tapping event, this was two or 3 months ago, was really a masterclass in divine empowerment. And I thought, interesting. I said, no, I don't think this tapping event was the masterclass in divine empowerment. But you're quite right. We do need to put together a masterclass in divine empowerment as part of our core mission. And that's what really, well, led us down this path of designing it and delivering it.
Well, what was interesting for me is that you were the one inspired to do this. It wasn't me leading, corralling everyone. It was you doing it. And I was like just happy as a clam to let you, you know, run with your vision and I would fill in the pieces as I needed to, but I was like really happy that you were running with it and it was profound to allow you to do that or to get myself out of the way for you to do that.
So, over the decades and decades of you doing your core private healing, one on one healing with clients, and then all of the group tapping events to lift people up into higher consciousness, it's so apparent that there is such a need out there to help people connect to their higher self, connect to their core soul's purpose, because a lot of people do feel really dislodged and uneasy and disconnected and unworthy. And there's a lot of trigger points that people are experiencing. And a lot of people really are struggling, to be honest. And, let's just put it this way, current events are not all, beer and skittles or, chirpy and roses. It is a bit of a challenge, and now is a real time and a real need for people to connect to their inner higher self and inner purpose.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about, it and what we're doing is it doesn't take a huge overhaul for people. It just takes tweaks in their own daily lives, and everyone's tweaks will be different. So, well, where one person will need to plug more into, what's going on in the moment, another person will need to like get out of their comfort zone and start activating and doing things, but in small increments that they can handle. And the SFT tapping protocols help with that a lot.
Hmm. Look, I mean, to be honest, every man and his dog spiritualist out there is running seminars and workshops and masterclasses. Not a day goes by without someone promoting something like this. But our intention was to put together something which is quite unique. And what's unique about the masterclass in divine empowerment is that we are, are offering a journey, a connected journey for all the participants to literally connect to their higher self, go through the process of enlightenment, which is a real thing, by the way, and dig deep into their core soul's purpose so that they can then enjoy joy, love, abundance, freedom, health, success, and all of the other um, descriptors, Jen, that you use to describe what it feels like when you are connected to your higher self. One of the really cool things about what you've done in you and I, we set the challenge to create an event that will create a trigger point to bring people into the journey to their higher self. And the linchpin of this is the sacred assignment that we are basically offering, which is really a initiation process for people to accept the sacred assignment to connect to their higher self. And the framework that you used was the conscious self, the ego, and the higher self. And so you want to talk about that and how that relates to the sacred assignment.
Sure. So with a lot of these other groups who are putting something out there, they're getting a sense of an awakening happening, but they're giving credit to something outside of themselves, like, oh, the Lyrian race is going to come down and save us, or something like that, like some great grand poobah is going to come down and save us. That's not the case. With awakening, the key component is each individual awakening. So what we're doing here is teaching everyone how to understand their own true nature. We know about the conscious self, but the conscious self has been like driven by the ego for the most part. So what we're doing in the sacred assignment is separating the conscious self, the ego, and the higher self. Now the higher self is always trying to talk to the conscious self, but the ego gets in the way. Now, the ego was set up as a protection for the conscious self so it didn't get too much information from the higher self and just go insane or just get overwhelmed. But instead, it derailed itself and took over the whole thing. It's almost like you can see big egos out there in the world, and that's kind of what the ego is like. It wants credit for everything, it's very fragile, it gets bullied if anyone else gets the limelight. So imagine that you have this component, this ego, that's supposed to be helping you, like a politician's supposed to be just helping, and they're all consuming your life. So what we're doing with the sacred assignment is helping you put parameters on the ego again, reconnect the conscious self, reconnect to the higher self, and to like realign with your higher intention, which is something that's been lost because people have just been pushed pillar to post, just doing what the ego wants for attention. It's just, well, you know what, current events, you know what your life has been like at the mercy of the ego. So that needs to be put in check. So understanding your own nature and these components is something that I don't think anyone else has ever done. You know why? Because the ego has controlled the narrative on evil and God. Those are aspects of the ego. So, how can you transcend the ego if the ego is telling you to worship it? That's why it needs to be contained.
Hmm. One of the first things that we did as soon as we had the basic structure and framework and intention of this masterclass is we then went about writing volume one of the masterclass workbook, which is this document here that we put together. But I mean, there's a lot of really cool content in there, and there's a lot of activities and exercises and worksheets and creative things that are part of the journey to then take you beyond the days, weeks, months, and years after the participating in the event itself. But one of the cool things in the workbook is your description of your process of enlightenment, which is, a profound write up, and then the other bit is the transmission that of the sacred assignment, which is basically a transmission that you had from your higher self, the adepts, your spirit guides, source, if you like, which was basically a commandment from source to each of the participants' conscious self, the ego, and the higher self. And during the event, you read that transmission. It was a powerful, powerful moment in the event, if I say so myself. I mean, when I first read what you wrote in delivering the sacred assignment, it was really emotional. It was profound, and I'm hats off to you for delivering that, by the way, during the event, because I think if I would have been delivering it, I would have been crying all the way through. That's how intense and powerful it was. It was like a commandment from source, a letter from source, if you like, to each of the conscious self, and then there was an admonishment to the ego to basically, stand down, and then an encouragement to the higher self to sort of come forward. So that was profound. And that's really that sacred assignment, and the delivery of it is really just the initiation point to then a series of activities that we're taking all the participants down. Jen, rather than us talking too much about it, I'd like to open it up to those in the studio with us, the participants. And let me ask this question first up. When about a week before the event, which was a couple of days ago, we sent out the workbook as so pre-reading homework. Now, a number of you had real visceral reactions. Well, from the moment that you received the workbook and when you started reading it. So I'd like to invite some people in the studio to share some of their experiences in the first reading, Mike.
Yeah, the first read when the workbook arrived, I printed it out, and before I even had started reading it that night, there was so much energy flowing through me. I couldn't sleep at all. I was just lying in bed trying to sleep, but I couldn't. And then for the next 2 nights, I did get a little sleep, but I was still up and outside at 2 in the morning with the dogs, which is unusual, looking at the moon. And so that just so much energy from not even from reading it, just when it arrived.
Hmm.
That
For me, when I started reading it, like the first page, I was just sobbing because it was just like emotions that I feel like were, kept inside. And then the whole week, I felt like this heaviness. And it's like I couldn't put into words like what was heavy about it, what was I working through, but I knew it was part of the process of things that were coming up that were going to be released and dealt with during the masterclass. And then when we did the masterclass and the taps and the assignment, like the relief and the lightness that happened was amazing and just like overnight.
So there was an overnight assignment that we offered up at the end of day one. That assignment was really an opportunity. Well, there's a series of questions and a bit of a worksheet to lead people through the completion of the assignment. But the whole intent of the assignment was an introspection to think about, where you are in your life and the trigger points, and starting to think about the past life aspects that keep bleeding through into your present life and creating these unseen blockages to your own joy, love, abundance, freedom, health, success. And it was meant to be an opportunity to really look and dig deep, and at the end of that, write a letter from your higher self to your conscious self. Anyone want to share some experiences in doing that overnight assignment?
When I was doing the overnight assignment, you asked, I went to those times when I was a victim in this life, and it was easy, to write those out. And then you ask us to flip the script and imagine other lifetimes when we were not the victim and we were the perpetrator. And I wrote all those out. And at the end of it, I just had this sense of spaciousness and kind of a nothingness, kind of like, you see, it's all the same. And I just want to emphasize too that there was a safety net in this process that you two provided, between your love, Jen, and your structure, Marvin. And it's like I was able to kind of face the polarity of me and all that I have been, and just allow that to the point where there was a real freedom. It shocked me. It wasn't a dramatic emotional thing, but it did shock me. And so I would just encourage people, this is you guys have made this a fairly simple process to actually kind of go through polarity, kind of go through all the mental planes until this neutrality of whatever you want to call it. It's a freedom, and it's pretty extraordinary. So that took me by surprise, and yeah.
So what's interesting is the understanding of enlightenment or awakening is as taught to the individual who's seeking is something of, oh, you're going to lose yourself. You're going to your consciousness is going to disappear and you're going to blend with the universe, right? All of that is like a lie. And all these misunderstandings about enlightenment were taught from the vantage point of the universal ego that didn't want you to transcend or be enlightened at all. It just wanted to trap you at a higher echelon. So what me and Marvin are doing is providing the wind resistance. You know, like ducks when they fly south, they'll do it in a V formation, and the main duck is like pushing through, like cutting through the wind resistance so everyone else's flight is easier. That's what Marvin and I are doing here. And so a lot of people will read my story and say, oh no, I don't want to go through such pain. I just want to avoid it. And that's what's been happening to the collective. They're so terrified of the journey that they're just like stuck in apathy. And what we're saying is, we pushed through this resistance for you. Your experience is not going to be as horrific. It's not necessary. You can break through your own experience just by your awareness and your intention to do so. So I just want to reassure everyone out there that they don't need to have a story like mine. They don't need to lose themselves in awakening. It's the opposite. You find yourself. And I think, Trace, I think that's what you felt when you were writing that out. That was the epiphany, is like, oh, wait, all those threats from the ego are gone. All that burden is gone. I'm free.
Yeah.
Let's go around the room. Let's open it up and free flow. Let's start, maybe Michelle, if you can, top of mind, your reactions to the event, the masterclass, the structure.
When I first got the book and I read through the foreword, I immediately started to cry. I knew right away that this was a special thing. And then the pages that I read through, I feel like this is the definitive book for any spiritual person or anybody who is in higher knowledge workbook.
Yes. For me, I started reading the book in the beginning, and I was amazed on, I've been following a lot of Jen and your work, and I was amazed of how well it was put together, and how much information I got. I got more information than I thought originally, and I remember towards the assignment I had. Um, the first day it had I felt really refreshed. I felt really good on our first day, and the resistance was huge towards the assignment. And prior to that, I was having a dream of like dying literally, and it was very well translated to the ego dying. So I knew in myself how important this was, how much of a breakthrough it was, because everything was coming towards it, and kind of sticking to it and allowing that and not coying was, you guys helped. I felt like you guys were with me the whole time through that process. And this class was, I mean, I just want to cry. Like, I can't even put it into words how beautiful, how beautiful it was. And it was from every angle, the way that we were able to separate the ego, the conscious self, and in the higher self. It was very profound, found that this is something that I could do every day, every my life. I can use this. And the biggest thing about the SFT tapping and everything that you guys provide is exactly that, it's a tool that you can use every single day. And it's like every time you feel like you're needing something, there's tools there. You can open the book, you can go through it. It's amazing. I really don't have a lot of words. it was a beautiful class. And then the second part of it, I feel like it was ongoing for me because the resistance was so huge that like my letter, everybody wrote their letters for the most part. I didn't get my letter till the next day, but it was so profound that I can't put it into words. It was beautiful when it came through. It was like crying all day long, and
Yeah.
I felt the love. I felt the love through the whole process. So
So the
It's us.
interesting thing that you mentioned is that the resistance to doing the overnight assignment, because look, to be honest, the overnight assignment it's an invitation to really look deep within, and so there will be a lot of resistance to doing that. But what you're saying, Carmen, is once the resistance was broken, the walls of resistance were broken, that there was a resolution on the back. And by the way, can I just say that that's only kind of step one. The whole purpose of putting this masterclass together is not for the 2-day event. The 2-day event is important, but it's just the beginning. What's really important is what happens in the days, the weeks, the months, and the years afterwards. And we're going to talk about the community that's supporting all of the, over time, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that are going to be going through this process. So, can I open up to Ashna for some comments on your experience?
When I first received the workbook, I started to cry at the first sentence. I don't know what the sentence was, but it was so profound. I started to cry, and in the week after, all these things started to happen, where I felt my own omniscience. I started to know things that were going to happen. So, but I also experienced some issues, physical issues. So it was really uh, weird, but also good. And when Jen read the sacred assignment, uh, at conscious when conscious self was talked about, I felt like a hand here and a hand here, like. And when the ego was talked about, I've, I really had to stay focused, to stay to not fall asleep. Um, and when the higher self was talked about, I felt like I was wearing a helmet because there was so much energy. I felt so much energy. And then the next day, writing or making the homework, it was really emotional. Facing, I had to make a list of all the people who, all the antagonists in my life, and the list was very, very long. And that, yeah, but but doing the script was also very good because you realize it's all about balance and it's not personal.
Mm.
But yeah, I really loved this workshop.
Mm. That's profound. We specialize in weird, just so you know, Ashna. We design weird. We monopolize
Yeah.
weird.
Oh,
First of all, it was amazing. It was life-changing, and I'm so glad that I did it. And I just want to thank both of you for doing this. And Jen, thank you for pushing me because I was so incredibly resistant. I didn't realize just how big my ego was, and the breakthrough was so intense that I almost didn't even do day one because I thought I had COVID. I felt so terrible. And, I'm usually not a sick person, I'm relatively healthy. So for me to just out of the blue it was about 4 a.m. the day of, and I just woke up in so much pain. And I was thinking, oh no, I'm gonna have to let Jen know I can't participate. And I pushed through. I took some Tylenol, and I took some more Tylenol. So I did it, and I'm just so glad. The workbook is amazing. So much information, very helpful. So yeah, thank you for putting all that together. Is really, really helpful. Um, but yeah, I think just I had so much resistance that just it was like I had the flu, and it was so strange. Like to me, that is just like you can't deny that that's a real thing after
Oh,
that experience.
I wonder if that's going to be one of the defining things about this is the initial challenge for everyone out there listening to this is to break through that resistance. I think that is going to be a common theme, the resistance and breaking through that resistance. But that's the process.
So here's the thing for everyone who's listening, the ego has such a limited bags of tricks. And lots of times, I'm going to say personally, me, 100% of the time, personally, me. When I feel like I'm dying, when I feel like I'm sick, when I feel like I'm at death's door, that's the ego. The ego gets bored. The ego wants attention. The ego wants to like bait and switch you from like paying attention to higher self or feeling empowered in the conscious self. So it'll create these pains. And it doesn't mean that the pains are not real. The ego is a master at manifesting and shoving issues into you. And it's like the more that it happens, the more you can catch the ego and say, this is not me in the moment. It doesn't make sense. It'll get your mind in there and it'll create an argument within yourself. Like, you can't make this stuff up. I'm feeling this bad. That's not in my head. But the way you can counter that to stay in higher consciousness is say you're just experiencing the pain of the collective. And that's what we do as dynamic energy beings. So the trick to working with that is when you're feeling that pain, separate from that pain, just like you're separated from the conscious self, the ego, and the higher self. When you're having symptoms, separate from those symptoms. Take the conscious self out of it and take the higher self out of it, and just let the ego pass through you. Let all that pain of the collective pass through you and empty it out as much as you can. That way you're not shoving it in your physical body and allowing yourself to become sick as a foregone conclusion, or to be like, pushed around by the ego who wants, may be bored and may be wanting these experiences just to have experiences.
Hmm. Let me continue to open up to those in the studio. Nora, would you like to share some of your experiences?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with Jen in private sessions and workshops for, I don't know, well over a decade. It's really interesting to see the masterclass because it is entirely different. I would say if you've ever worked with Jen before, like you need to give this a try. Um, the resistance is for real. I think if you guys hadn't been like holding my place, I probably would not have shown up. I spent an hour trying to get the workbook printed at the store. I think I sent like 4 emails to the store to get it to like come through and was successful in the end. And I'm very grateful I was. But I think I even messaged Jen saying the resistance to this is for real. And I felt that throughout the workshop. Um, but it was interesting writing the letter to myself, things that Jen has been lovingly teaching me forever. I finally heard it through my own voice, which
Hmm.
really made it a different impact. So I'm very grateful and I'm so excited you guys are doing this.
It's such an interesting perspective when you are writing this letter from your higher self. after going through the process of introspection, you really are hearing it in your own voice. And I think that is quite profound and powerful. And the other thing that's really profound and powerful, witnessing everything that happened on day two, the majority of day two was all about well, the participants, as many as we could manage in a couple of hours, sharing their experience of that introspective moment, the overnight exercise, and then reading their letters for those that were able to do that aspect of it. And just the sharing of it, I think, is quite liberating. And it's an exoneration, really, because it's, when you do that, you really are letting the ego off the hook and say, time for a break now, and now I'm going to connect to the higher self. But that's just the beginning. It's we've got a whole program of activity and follow-up events to support everyone in their ongoing journey. Just to round out, Angela, is there anything else you'd like to share with us? I know you shared a little bit earlier, but is there anything else you'd like to say?
Yeah, like what I found really interesting, like the before process, during the 2-day event, and the after process, which I find is so interesting, is during the day-to-day, how I'm able to identify and differentiate between the conscious self, the ego, the higher self, and I'm able to navigate of, wait, the ego is tripping me up, or I'm just able to pick it up in myself and with my kids, and so it feels like the day flows better. I feel more empowered. Things just feel easier, and I feel more empowered, and that's just really exciting because I feel like this is like a deeper level of healing and like a new way forward. And I remember talking to Jen like months ago before the masterclass was even like out there to be signed up for. I kept having dreams about like September, something big is happening. Like I was pregnant and my due date was in September. And I feel like this is like this new birthing of like empowerment that's like deeper for everyone and even the collective based on like what happened. And it's just interesting.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Now you said you can, which is really good. You can like separate when you're in high conscious self, when you're in ego, and when you're in higher self, right? Can you, being the mother of twins, young twins, can you tell when your child is an ego, conscious self, or higher self?
Yes, and it's almost like I can tell when my ego is talking to their ego, or my
Yes.
higher self is talking to their ego, and it's just and then I'll get more taps, and I'll be like, "I understand what you're coming from now." Before, I would either take it personally, or I would get frustrated, and now I'm like, "Oh, like, I have a better understanding, and it's more objective." It's really cool.
So can you imagine how different the world will be when everybody is doing this and when they know that they're talking to ego and another person and then they can step back and like give grace or whatever and it can change the whole dynamics can go out like a network, like a butterfly effect. So that's really great. Thank you.
Hmm. Mike, is there anything else you'd like to add in terms of reflection?
Yes, thank you. First, I want to say thank you both, Jen and Marvin, for this masterclass. I wish I had this in my youth because it would have made my life so much different in a better sense. I would have been listening more to my higher self and less to other people's opinions as to what my life should be. And but I'm glad I have it now. And I would just say it can be listening to my higher self. It doesn't always have to even be major decisions. It can just be we're getting ready to walk the dogs, and it can be go to this park instead of that park, something like that. And it works out that the park was the right one to go to. So it's, it's so, it's such a pleasure to have my higher self helping me out. So thank you very much. And the energy is still, still flowing.
Hmm.
It's
Great.
And Trace, any
Yeah, I
further
just
thoughts?
like to, life becomes more of an adventure. I think what you did mention the veils between worlds. I noticed doing the work of, the SFT taps and removing blockages, like, and going back into my childhood and looking at it and loving it, things like, things happen in my daily life, like, I swear, signs of people from my childhood who were positive forces suddenly show up. I'll do something on the internet and find, wait, you had a childhood doctor who was wonderful. He just appeared in the internet for me. And the other thing that happened 2 days ago was I had this fear of Dobermans my whole life, and I just got asked to take care of a Doberman. And I actually inwardly asked for some backup when I went to go help the Doberman. And his name is Angel. And I could feel in the meeting of Angel, like there was something in my brain shifting, like there was brain chemistry going on, like an ancient kind of primal wound was shifting. And all of a sudden, this like exquisite love, I think, just like, Jen, you know what I'm talking about. Like I suddenly the biggest fear turned into the greatest love. And I knew my brain chemistry changed from this Doberman. I mean, there was something going on like beyond this world. And that's what happens. Life is a bigger adventure. There's things happening on lots of different levels. But again, it's not a scary thing because like you're prepared. You get the strength along the way to have these very cool experiences that, that aren't scary, but are really powerful.
Mhm.
That's awesome. The more we tap into the higher self, the less fear we'll have because we realize that all the fear has been the ego trying to keep us, small. So the more we address those fears, and we don't have to do it, head on. We can just do it in very subtle ways, and it's amazing how we can become empowered.
Mm. As we wind down, I just want to say this is volume 1 of the Masterclass workbook. Volume 2 and the ongoing volumes are in the works. And the way that they're in the works is encourage everyone to sign up also for the Masterclass community. That's where we get together as a growing community of people that have had the initiation through the Masterclass event. And we're running regular follow-up events and adding to the body of activities and worksheets and things to support you through your journey to connecting with your higher self and really connecting with your soul's purpose. Because one of the things that I find the most liberating thing that I've experienced is having a deep connection to purpose. And my sense is that a lot of people are just lacking of their purpose and they're going through life a little bit like on autopilot. They're having some life altering events occur and it's really shaking them up to force them. And it's really the universe giving them an opportunity to take the time to basically connect, awaken their larger soul's purpose. So the community is the way that we're going to be doing that. And it's going to be fascinating when we've got a really vibrant, growing community, thousands, hundreds of thousands regularly getting together and sharing their journeys. It's going to be profound. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah. So all through history, to be a seeker meant to like go through initiations, find something secretive, right? That nobody else could handle. This is the most sacred and secretive thing that you can imagine is you connecting with your higher self. What could be more sacred and secret than that? And these groups give initiations, which was, I was in a group and it was all about those initiations until that was flipped on the dime. You know what an initiation is? It's simply you taking the initiative. So it's not waiting around for someone else to, give you an initiation. That's bullshit. Every day you wake up and you do something to better yourself, you are taking the initiative. So you are taking an initiation into higher consciousness.
It's probably a good place to wind up. Thank you, everyone, for joining us in the after party, aftermath event to share your experiences. That was just the first running of the masterclass a couple of days ago. We're running it every 2 months. The next one is at the end of October and then the end of December. So just follow, it'll be the end of every 2 months. But the good news is you don't have to wait to participate in these live events. We do have the recording of the event available. So for those that prefer to stream on demand, it's certainly available. All the resources are there. You'll have the full experience as if you were on the live event. But if you want to join us on the live event, we do it every 2 months. And look forward to seeing you in the community. That's the regular touch points every week. We're going to be getting together, and in the community page, there's going to be a growing body of work. It's going to be an amazing resource. I think it's going to be profound. Thank you, everyone, for being here and joining us. And those that are watching at home, look forward to catching you next time. Bye for now.
Bye for now, everybody. We love you.